This is Ojai Lake, the mother lake for Dali people. For years, the water has been breeding the people living by the lakeside. But at the same time, human activities also take a toll on the water quality. Ojai Lake, the fall and fight for a natural treasure. Once described as a living postcard nestled among Yang's mountains, Lake Hai was more than just a pretty face. It was a lifeline. For centuries, this majestic lake supported generations of fishermen, irrigated lush farmland, and anchored the cultural identity of surrounding communities. Its shimmering blue waters mirrored the skies and mountains so perfectly, it seemed like nature was showing off. But paradise doesn't stay perfect when pressure mounts. By the late 20th century, Lake Hai began to suffocate. A toxic blend of booming tourism, agricultural expansion, and unchecked sewage turned a pristine ecosystem into a warning sign. The rise of single-bulb garlic farming, lucrative but intensive, led to excessive pesticide and fertilizer use while untreated wastewater from towns and tourist resorts flowed into the lake. As a result, algal blooms choked the water, native fish populations dwindled, and biodiversity unraveled. Fishermen turned to desperate, unsustainable methods like electric shocks and banned chemicals to maintain their catch, further damaging the delicate balance. The situation became dire. By the early 2000s, Lake Hai was on the brink. No longer dead, but barely alive. Murky, foul-smelling water drove away tourists, and locals began feeling the bite of economic loss and health hazards. Despite scattered government efforts, temporary shutdowns of polluting businesses, farming restrictions, the damage was deep and trust between authorities and communities remained fragile. But then hope surfaced, not in the form of sweeping regulations, but through targeted science and local collaboration. In 2006, Professor Kong Hainan and his team from Shanghai Jiang University launched a bold restoration project. They didn't rely on one-size-fits-all answers. Instead, they listened. They studied the lake's watershed, identified pollution sources, and engaged directly with the people who lived off its waters. Fertilizer use was slashed through incentives and education. Wetlands were created to filter runoff naturally. Waste treatment facilities expanded and sewage systems improved across more than 370 villages, processing up to 210,000 cub-m of wastewater daily. A staggering 140,000 metric tons of livestock waste are now collected and treated annually. Nearly 6 billion yuan, close to $890 million, has been funneled into these sustainable systems. But restoring Hai wasn't just about infrastructure. It was about rekindling respect. Locals learned how their daily choices impacted the lake. Tourists were educated, businesses held accountable. Slowly, the green returned. Not the toxic algae, but reeds, lotuses, and lily pads. Birds once again migrated from Siberia, and fish began to reappear in deeper numbers. Ojai story is not one of defeat. It's one of resilience. Though not yet returned to its original glory, its comeback is a beacon for threatened ecosystems worldwide. This lake, once a vibrant mirror of life, nearly cracked under human pressure. But now, thanks to relentless effort, science, and community resolve, it's beginning to reflect something just as beautiful. Hope Delhi and the delicate dance with nature. For centuries, the people of Delhi lived in quiet harmony with Lake Ojai until ambition outpaced awareness. This wasn't always a story of conflict. For hundreds, maybe thousands of years, generations lived alongside the lake, respecting its rhythms, drawing life from its clear waters, and giving back in return. But like so many places where nature meets modernization, that balance was eventually broken. Can we truly blame the people? Or is it the inevitable price of growth without foresight? Nestled between the soaring sand mountains and the glistening waters of Hai, Delhi is a city that wears its soul on its sleeve. Its ancient town with narrow cobbled alleys and whitewashed bis-style houses hums with centuries of tradition. You can feel history in the carved wooden doors and floral wall murals. Hear it in the notes of traditional music echoing from hidden courtyards and see it in the vibrant markets and modest temples that dot the town. Even amid modern comforts, shiny shopping centers, busy roads, and urban sprawl, Delhi retains a relaxed pace that feels more like a choice than a consequence. But this charm has come at a cost. As Delhi rose in popularity, tourism exploded and with it a rush of development. Guest houses, hotels, and restaurants sprang up along the lake shore, many without proper sewage systems. Wastewater poured directly into overwhelming its natural defenses. The lake that once reflected the sky began reflecting our environmental negligence instead. Nitrogen and phosphorus levels soared. Algal bloom spread like sickness and the lake's oxygen levels plummeted, taking aquatic life with them. Agriculture played a parallel role in this unraveling. In the quest for higher yields and bigger profits, farmers embraced chemical-heavy methods. Pesticides and fertilizers easily washed into the lake by rain-fueled eutrophication while stripping the land of its integrity. Wetlands, once natural guardians of water purity, were degraded or destroyed. Soil erosion worsened. Sediment clouded the water. And cash crops like garlic only deepened the dependency on chemical input. And yet the story doesn't end in despair. It pivots into hope. In recent years, Hai has begun to reclaim its identity, not by accident, but through determined action. By 2023, the transformation was impossible to ignore. Algal blooms became rare. Fish returned. Water quality improved. Tourists drawn not just by beauty but by the story of revival came back in droves. The people of Delhi once again found pride in their environment. Not only as a scenic backdrop but as a source of life and livelihood. Cleaner water has meant safer food, better health and more sustainable jobs in both farming and tourism. This revival wasn't just ecological. It was personal. Entire communities have felt the ripple effect of renewal. But the work is far from done. Environmental restoration is not a finish line. It's a commitment. The threat of climate change still looms with rising temperatures, altered rainfall, and evaporation patterns disrupting ecosystems. Urban development continues to press against the lake's boundaries. And without continued vigilance, the same mistakes could easily resurface. Hai's journey reminds us that healing is possible but never guaranteed. It demands humility, responsibility, and above all a willingness to listen to the land before it stops speaking to us. The people, the pressure, and the path forward. What makes the story of Delhi and Lake Hai so powerful isn't just the damage, it's the reckoning. This wasn't a faceless crisis. It was personal. Locals watched their childhood fishing spots disappear under green sludge. Farmers saw yield suffer as the lake's health declined. Business owners noticed fewer tourists and felt the weight of regulations. People weren't just bystanders. They were both part of the problem and essential to the solution. There's an irony here. Many of the very practices that fuel Dallas' prosperity, its booming tourism, its cash crop farming, its real estate rush are the same forces that almost destroyed its natural foundation. It's a lesson in short-term gain versus long-term sustainability. Yes, guest houses brought in money. Yes, garlic fields meant exports and economic lift. But at what cost? A lake can only absorb so much waste before it begins to fight back. And fight back it did. The choking algal blooms were more than an eyesore. They were nature's warning signs. Fish began disappearing. Migratory birds found fewer safe havens. Once clear waters became murky and lifeless. The loss wasn't just environmental, it was cultural. For the bee people who have deep spiritual and ancestral ties to the lake, this degradation was a kind of identity crisis. Still, Delhi didn't give up. The city slowly began rewriting its relationship with nature. Restoration wasn't just about installing treatment plants. It was about rethinking how the city lives and grows. Farmers began shifting toward organic and low-impact methods. Wetlands were restored to filter runoff. Stricter rules on lakeside development were enforced, and education campaigns helped people see their role in the lake's future. Today you can ride a bike around Lake Hai and see signs of healing. Birds are returning. Lotus flowers bloom again in the summer sun. The water, once thick with algae, is clearer now. Locals are once more fishing, not with harmful methods, but with traditional ones that respect the lake's limits. The connection between people and place, once fractured, is slowly being rebuilt. But this isn't the time for complacency. Environmental restoration is not a one-time fix. It's a lifetime promise. Climate change casts a long shadow over progress. More erratic weather, rising temperatures, and population growth continue to challenge the delicate balance that Hai needs to thrive. Urban expansion must be planned carefully and tourism managed with intention, not indulgence. If there's one message Lake Hai sends loud and clear, it's this. Nature remembers. It records every choice we make. The lake doesn't lie. When it thrives, it reflects harmony. When it suffers, it mirrors our mistakes. But it also offers redemption for those who are willing to change. Hai isn't just a lake. It's a mirror, a teacher, and a second chance.